Have you ever noticed that the moment a room gets quiet, the ringing in your ears seems to jump up in volume? You lie down to sleep, the house goes still, and suddenly the tinnitus feels relentless, louder, closer, impossible to ignore. That experience isn't your imagination, and it's not a sign that something mysterious is suddenly wrong. There are clear reasons why silence makes tinnitus worse, and understanding them can give you practical ways to take back control tonight. If you want practical tinnitus tips and simple things you can try right away, hit subscribe and stay with me for the next several minutes. At the simplest level, there are two things happening. Silence removes the background sounds that usually hide or mask the ringing, and your brain turns its attention toward any internal sound that remains. Clinicians call one key concept the mixing point, background sound that comes up close to the volume of your tinnitus without completely hiding it. Masking is when a background sound is loud enough to cover the tinnitus altogether. The mixing point sits near that boundary. When the room goes quiet, there's no longer a mix of external sound and internal sound, so the tinnitus stands out. On top of that, our attention and stress systems are wired to react to quiet moments with increased vigilance. In a quiet bedroom, the brain can't ignore the internal noise the way it does when you're focusing on a conversation or music. That combination, less external sound plus heightened attention, explains why silence often makes tinnitus feel so much worse. Let's unpack how that plays out, and then walk through 5 practical reminders you can use to shift this pattern. Each reminder explains why silence amplifies tinnitus and gives concrete actions you can try right away. First reminder, sound therapy. How to use background sound during the day and at night. Sound therapy doesn't mean blasting music or trying to erase your tinnitus entirely. The goal is to reintroduce safe, gentle sounds that reduce the contrast between what's outside and the sound inside your ears. During the day, that might be soft instrumental music, the hum of a fan, or ambient noise from a small speaker. In an office, a low-volume white noise app, a desktop humidifier, or even a playlist of low-key ambient tracks can keep your auditory system engaged so that tinnitus doesn't dominate. The key idea is to avoid extremes. Choose a sound that's comfortable and that sits near, but not necessarily above, the tinnitus volume. That's the mixing point in practice, a background sound close enough in level to make the tinnitus less salient, without the listening fatigue that comes from trying to fully mask it all day. At night, your approach should be slightly different. Full masking can be useful for some people when trying to fall asleep, but often a steady soft sound is enough.
Consider a bedside sound machine, a pillow speaker, or an app set to gentle nature sounds, rain, distant ocean, or soft wind, at a level that's restful, not invasive. If you use hearing devices, speak with your audiologist about programs that provide low-level environmental sound or a built-in sound generator. The important instruction is to start low and adjust until the ringing is less intrusive. Louder isn't necessarily better. Over time, consistent use of low-level sound during sleep can help your brain relearn that quiet nights are not a time to mount an alarm reaction to internal noise. Second reminder, fight or flight in the nervous system. Silence can act as a space where worry and hypervigilance flourish. When you notice your tinnitus and worry about it, your body can shift into a fight or flight mode. Heart rate rises, muscles tense, breathing gets shallow. That state increases sensory sensitivity and makes sounds feel closer and harsher. Brain science shows that when our nervous system is activated like this, we pay more attention to what we fear, which in this case is the ringing itself. The good news is that this process is reversible. Simple, immediate calming strategies can shift you toward the parasympathetic state, the part of your nervous system responsible for rest and digestion, and reduce the intensity of the experience. Here are 2 quick practical steps to try when the ringing spikes in silence. First, a short breathing exercise. Breathe in for 4 counts, hold for 2, then exhale for 6 counts. Repeat this cycle for 3 minutes while keeping your shoulders relaxed. Second, pair breathing with gentle movement. Stand up, stretch slowly, or take a short walk listening to low-level audio. Movement helps interrupt the circular focus on tinnitus, and the low-level sound gives your brain something else to attend to. Many patients I see describe how stepping outside with a soft podcast or nature sounds makes the tinnitus feel less oppressive within minutes. These aren't cures, but they're immediate tools to lower physiological arousal and reduce perceived loudness. Third reminder, consistent stress and anxiety management reduces long-term burden. While a single breathing session helps in the moment, chronic stress is what keeps the brain primed to amplify tinnitus day after day. Building a small toolbox of daily practices creates resilience. That toolbox might include short guided meditations you listen to each morning, a daily walk with calming audio, a gentle yoga or Tai Chi routine a few times per week, or cognitive behavioral therapy with a clinician who understands tinnitus. Support groups, whether online or in person, can also reduce isolation and provide practical strategies from people who've been through the same struggle. If you're not sure where to start, choose one manageable habit and stick with it for a month.
Maybe you try a 5-minute guided breathing track each morning and a 10-minute walk with audio in the afternoon. Over weeks and months, these small, consistent choices change your baseline level of arousal and lower the overall reactivity to tinnitus. Remember, improvement is often gradual. Brain systems involved in attention and emotion take time to recalibrate. Fourth reminder, cognitive patterns and CBT-style reframing. Silence gives your mind free space to spin stories. This will never go away. I can't sleep because of this, or my life is ruined. Those thoughts are understandable, but they increase the perceived intrusiveness of tinnitus. A simple, evidence-based approach from cognitive behavioral therapy can help. Notice, name, and let go. First, notice the thought without judgment. Observe that the mind has moved into worry. Second, name it. That's a catastrophic thought. Third, reframe or let it pass. Remind yourself of a fact. For example, I've had nights when the ringing was worse and I still slept later. Or I can try a sound and a breathing exercise for 5 minutes. If reframing feels abstract, try journaling. Write the worry down and place it on the table. Physically externalizing the thought reduces its grip. Over time, these small acts of noticing and labeling weaken automatic negative loops. A practical example. You might think, if I don't fall asleep in the next 10 minutes because of my tinnitus, tomorrow will be a disaster. Notice that thought. Label it. That's a prediction, not a certainty. Reframe. I can try a low-level sound and a 3-minute breathing exercise. Even if I don't fall asleep immediately, these things help calm my body. The goal isn't to banish the thought entirely, but to reduce the emotional charge that turns the tinnitus into a catastrophe. Fifth reminder, daily routines that build resilience. How you start and end your day creates a neurobiological context for how tinnitus is experienced. A rushed, caffeine-heavy morning followed by a screen-saturated evening sharpens vigilance and can increase nighttime intrusiveness. Instead, cultivate a gentle routine. Mornings that include a few minutes of movement, hydration, and a short breathing practice set a calm tone. During the day, make deliberate small choices to keep background sound present. A soft playlist when working, a fan in the bedroom during a late afternoon rest, or wearing open-ear audio when walking. Even turning on the radio at low volume when you arrive home can prevent the abrupt silence that triggers hyperfocus on the ringing. Evening routines should prioritize wind down. Dim the lights, reduce stimulating screens at least an hour before bed, have a warm shower, and introduce your chosen sleep sound at a comfortable level. If you find yourself lying awake fixating on the sound, try getting up and doing a low-effort calming activity with audio for 10 minutes, rather than lying in bed watching the clock. Routine creates predictability, and predictability lowers the brain's need for constant monitoring. Let me link these 5 reminders together so you can see the full picture. Silence unmasks tinnitus by removing external sounds that usually occupy the auditory system. That unmasking combines with attention shifts and physiological arousal, the fight or flight response, and the brain starts to prioritize the internal sound. These processes are natural and expected. The 5 reminders are strategies to reverse that cascade. Reintroduce gentle sound, sound therapy, lower physiological arousal, breathing and movement to favor the parasympathetic state, reduce chronic stress through consistent habits, reshape unhelpful thought patterns with CBT-style techniques, and structure your day so silence isn't a repeated trigger. Think of silence as both the problem and the place where you can intervene, with sound, with calming practices, and with mental habits that reduce the power of the noise. Here are 3 practical actions you can try tonight, right after watching this video. First, turn on a low-level sound, a bedside sound machine set to slow rain or a small fan, and set it near the mixing point, close enough to the tinnitus level to make the ringing feel less central, but soft enough to be comfortable. Second, do a 3-minute breathing exercise. Breathe in 4, hold 2, breathe out 6, relaxing your shoulders and jaw. Third, write down one worry about your tinnitus on a notepad and fold it away. Literally externalize that concern so your brain isn't holding it in the same place where you're trying to sleep. These 3 steps are quick, easy, and evidence-consistent. They reintroduce sound, lower immediate arousal, and stop rumination in its tracks. A few practical notes and caveats before we finish. If your tinnitus suddenly changes in character or is accompanied by dizziness or sudden hearing loss, seek professional medical attention promptly. If you haven't had a hearing check in a while, consider an appointment with an audiologist to rule out treatable hearing issues. Sound therapy and behavioral tools should be tailored. There's no single best sound or trick that works for everyone. What I've described are general, low-risk strategies that many people find helpful. Use them in ways that feel safe and comfortable for you.
Also, if anxiety around tinnitus is severe, working with a mental health professional familiar with tinnitus and CBT can be extremely helpful. To summarize, silence makes tinnitus worse because it removes external sounds that mask the internal noise, and because quiet spaces give the brain room to focus and escalate through stress responses.
Introducing gentle background sound at a comfortable mixing point, practicing simple nervous system calming techniques, building consistent stress management routines, using CBT-style reframing to reduce catastrophic thinking, and creating daily habits that prevent sudden silence will all reduce how intrusive the tinnitus feels. These changes take time and patience, but small daily steps add up. If this resonated with you, subscribe for more practical tinnitus tools and explanations. Check the description for guided audio, recommended exercises, and resources at puretinnitus.com that can help you start a personalized plan. I'd also love to hear from you in the comments. Which of the 3 steps will you try tonight? The bedside sound, the 3-minute breathing, or the little worry notebook? Tell me which one, and if you try it, come back and let us know how it went.